I'm gonna step in it this time. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. You know, talking about negative things is never a recipe for success on this platform. When I talked bad about Rage, I got some comments that were positive and some comments that were saying I was a complete idiot for not loving Rage. Well, today, we could be doing it even worse, because today I'm going to talk about how I don't like Doom Eternal, and by extension, its expansions, the Ancient Gods. Now, if you like Doom Eternal, that's fine. Enjoy it, play the game. I'm just giving my opinion on why I don't like it. Alright, let's get started. Oh, I'm gonna get swatted. Bloody millennials!
Ostensibly, this will be a review of Doom Eternal The Ancient Gods Part 1, which was released on October 20th of 2020. But in addition to that, I will be giving my current opinion on Doom Eternal as a whole. Doom Tag 1 is a first-person movement arena shooter and was the first of 2 expansion packs for Doom Eternal. The modern Doom gameplay differs heavily from the straightforward first-person shooting of the past, and instead incorporates several different gameplay elements that combine to form a single coherent whole. You first have the shooting. It's a bit weak, and few times will a single shot get you a one-hit kill. You primarily shoot an enemy till it glows instead of dies, and then you deploy the gory kill, and the animations are quick enough that on their own this won't be too tedious, but if you want to blast the demons with any kind of abandon, look elsewhere, as shooting on its own will bring down only a very few enemies. The levels of the game are broken into arenas, where you will fight a certain number of enemies until you are allowed to progress to the next arena. This is where the movement shooter aspect comes in. You will have to always be dodging and weaving to avoid attacks from the veritable armies of enemies that they love to pack into small bloody spaces. In order to stay alive, you must master the movement, because if you stand still even for the tiniest shred of time, you'll be shredded into tiny bits. Further, in order to stay alive, you have to master the various equipment. You've got the flame belch and the grenade launcher. The grenade launcher is good for crowd control, and the flame belch will generate armor. Lastly, you will never have enough ammo to fight the number of enemies being thrown at you, so you'll have to deploy the chainsaw to get ammo, and thankfully the game always provides at least one zombie to chainsaw ammo out of. In any given fight, you'll need to deploy the 2 bits of equipment, use glory kills to generate health, and chainsaw to get ammo, and you'll have to constantly switch weapons as you fight your various foes. In order to hope to win any given fight, you must let go of your conscious self and act on instinct. As stated earlier, the levels are entirely made up of arenas, so you'll just be walking or platforming from one arena to the next. Sounds alright so far, not really Doom, but still a fresh take on the franchise, and you gotta advance a little bit so as not to stagnate. Oh, you know what's coming, alright. You know I'm about to rip and tear Doom Eternal a new one. Sadly, Doom Eternal, and by extension Tag 1 in particular, is just tedious and boring. The fact that you always have to fight in arenas with enemies constantly on your ass is bad enough, but there was one major change between Doom 2016 and Eternal. In Doom 2016, guns were still of some relevance. Yeah, the stupid, tedious, boring glory kills were still necessary for many of the enemies, but you could at least just shoot things some of the time. The reason you could shoot things was because ammo spawned when you glory killed enemies. You could beat bullets out of their asses and get back to shooting. Some bright spark at New id must have noticed that the chainsaw was not getting used that much back in Doom 2016, and thus they decided to make it a core part of the gameplay in Eternal by ditching glory kill ammo drops. On the first playthrough of Doom Eternal, you'll probably not notice all that much, but the ones after, oh my god, does this get really boring. Doom in the 90s was all about tickling that id. You were always pushing forward and blasting enemies. Here, you're juggling a million different gameplay bits just to complete the same bloody gameplay loop over and over again. Can it be that complexity leads to tedium and sometimes simplicity leads to fun? If all you want to do is shoot demon in the face, it does. id Software was all about appeasing the id. You were supposed to be enjoying atavistic activities and not thinking too hard about what you were doing. Doom in the 90s was a major departure from the simulation programs that early PC gaming offered. id just gave you a shotgun and told you to go medieval on some demon asses. Modern id makes you go to bloody work and keep track of every little bloody detail, and arenas are, in my opinion, the worst aspect of modern game design. Being able to blast through a level is fun because you're constantly progressing, saying, yeah, you can find a bottleneck here and there where you die to hard enemies, but you, the player, control the progress. But in arena-based games, you are at the mercy of the developers, and getting locked in rooms every 5 feet, while challenging, is just tiring. There is no room for exploration or just enjoying the scenery. Nope, you gotta complete arena and get excited for new arena. Tag 1 takes all this and makes it even worse. There are a few differences between Tag 1 and Eternal. In Eternal, you had a few upgrades you could unlock to make the game a little less tiresome. You could get some bullet time if you fell to low health, and that's all gone. Tag 1 has more monsters, longer arenas, and no little help tokens at all. The long arenas really make the game hard to play. You can be doing good and get almost to the end of one and then die and go all the way back to the beginning. Now, I am no gaming journo and do have basic object permanence, but still, having to slog through 90% of arena only to get blasted by the last Caco demon and having to do it all over again, especially when the gameplay is needlessly boring, is just a bridge too bloody far. Especially when you have nothing to really work towards other than more bloody arenas. So anyway, Tag 1 is bloody hard. Not impossible, but really hard. Not only do you have to juggle all that bullshit, but you also have to kill certain enemies in a certain way, which makes it even more annoying. You know, people like to complain about the 2 Marauders showing up, but that was the easiest ever. I mean, Marauders are not that hard. Tag 1 introduces the double Marauder, where you gotta fight 2 at the same time. Oh my. And this wasn't that hard. What was hard for me was having to fight a non-stop barrage of enemies for 20 minutes at a time. Now, if all the stuff I described actually sounds good to you, go for it. Install the game again and have a ball. If you never played Doom Eternal, or Tag 1 or 2 for that matter, and want a game where you can just shoot a monster in the face, you might look elsewhere, like the original Doom or Doom 3. So anyway, what about the fundamentals? Well, graphically, the game looks damn good. The levels, despite being endless arenas, are at least well detailed, and the enemies look as great as they did in Doom Eternal. Now, if only the game was, dynamic. Sound is great, voice acting is competent, the guns sound good and all that stuff. Where the game really shines is in the musical compositions. Bethesda ended up pissing off Mick Gordon, and thus he left, but he was replaced by Andrew Hushalt and David Levy, and they bring their A game. Now, if only the game was as good as the beats. The music has more metal influences this time around, and Tag 2 has what I feel is the best of the modern Doom tracks, Immora. This is the track that plays in Tag 2's final struggle. I have heard it told that the modern Doom games are soundtracks with a game attached, and due to Eternal's boring gameplay, I most assuredly agree. The story for Doom Tag 1 and Tag 2 is pretty okay, but I've not been able to enjoy it due to my lack of enjoyment of the gameplay, and thus have just watched the cutscenes on YouTube. Turns out your AI buddy in Doom Eternal was actually God, but in a twist, God was created by the devil, aka the Dark Lord, and now the Doom Slayer has to take down the Great Stan once and for all. The story for Tag 1 and 2 ends out the Doom series, and, spoiler alert, Doomslayer kills Satan, and thus all the demons everywhere fade into the ether. But of course, Doomslayer also dies due to being tied to the Dark Lord, and is entombed into a sarcophagus until he is needed yet again. The end. The concept of hell is toned down considerably and is made more technological than magical. It turns out that Satan is a guy that looks like the mighty Doomslayer, but with red eyes, and he's a Redditor, and he has a big-ass power suit. Instead of the literal personification of evil, it's a Redditor in red armor. And all that basically sums up my opinion for Doom Eternal / Ancient Gods. It's got a lot of good ideas, just executed in a way I personally don't like.
Oh dear, what have I done? Oh, the comment section in this video is going to be interesting. You know, most of the time I stick with positive stuff because you can't really go wrong with that. The times I actually venture an opinion that goes outside of the accepted discourse, I always end up getting in trouble. Glad I'm never going to review Half-Life or Half-Life 2 or any of the other Metroid games. I remember years ago, ladies and gentlemen, I made a video on Metroid Fusion, and I said, I just don't really care for the other Metroid games. Oh, man, did I get flamed for that. In any event, I'm General Lotz. I'm wishing you good, Heretic, Hexen, or whatever makes you happy.
If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and please consider leaving a like or a comment, as the algorithm desires your soul. And I want to thank all those fans who have supported this channel, both past and present.